Welcome to Flooff Coffee Club, and today our topic of conversation is about socialization and what does socialization mean to each of us. Now, I think it's a very in thing that we have a lot of people doing a lot of dog activities, taking the dog on the yacht, at the beach for some other dog activity, but I think all of it is done because you want your dog to be social. But I think the meaning of socialization may mean different to everyone. And on Flooff Coffee Club today we have two experts, Heleen from Dog Logic and Linda from Coastal Canine, and I'm going to open the topic to them to talk about what is socialization. So over to you, Heleen.
Okay, I think an interesting thing to talk about first is what it's not, what socialization is not. Because people seem to hear it and think, I need to let my dog meet as many dogs as possible. And this is the worst thing you could do. And it actually creates a lot of problems, creates a huge amount of problem. So rather than going crazy on that part, you actually want to have your dog meeting very few other dogs, but meeting in the correct way, in a gentle exposure that's nice and positive, and not just taking them to the dog park and letting them run loose. Having a bad experience when they're that small can cause way more damage than being a little bit conservative. So I think Linda would agree with me.
Absolutely. I think they don't have enough good exposure behind them when they're small. And one bad experience impacts it more than a dog that's 3-4 years old because they've got so much good exposure to back it up. So yeah, and I just think the biggest thing is the word social's in it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, and it's just so misinterpreted. It's just because the word social's in it doesn't mean they've got to meet every person, every dog, and get them out and about and take them and really overwhelm them. I think a lot of situations are really overwhelming for dogs, really overwhelming. So yeah.
So you use the word social. And I think social, even for us humans, could mean different things, right? So social could mean I'm courteous when I have a guest coming to my house. Social could mean how I manage my environment around me. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good example because, for example, you don't go out to a beach club partying every single day for your socializing. You also meet with your friends quietly for a coffee or go on the sofa and have a conversation, or you'll go to somewhere, even if it's not with other people, like let's say you go to a museum and there's other people around and you're not busy with, that's still a social event for yourself. So it's more sort of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the bigger picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I just think that's what's missed. But that was such a good analogy, wasn't it? I'm going to use that because it's just, yeah, it doesn't have to be the exciting stuff all the time. It can be really chilled out and more habituating to life, isn't it? It's just
sitting on the driveway and watching the Taliban bikes go by.
Yeah.
Just watching them.
Yeah.
Nothing else. That's socializing.
I think that's the biggest one that's missed, is just
Massively.
watching the world go by and teaching your dogs to actually be calm and be able to cope with these situations.
So I have a highly sensitive, and I call him sensitive or attentive dog, and his name is Duke. Whenever I take him for a walk, another dog has to pass by and he is raring to get to the dog. And I think that's unsocial. Am I right in my sense?
It's probably a sign of a lack of socializing or improper socialization when he was younger. So he's probably had too many experiences where he was allowed to just rush up into another dog's face, or he had so many other dogs rushing into his face. So now he's expecting that. Whereas like Linda said, if he'd had a couple of years of practicing just existing around other dogs, they're going on, nothing exciting's going on, it's fine, he wouldn't be so headstrong when that does happen to him.
But some dogs, I remember working with one dog many years ago, and he had been in kennels and hadn't had any exposure, and that was another reason that he struggled with life so much. He used to empty the park, which was quite nice when you were training him because we needed a quiet space, but he was just, and it was frustration of just not knowing what to do, and he came across as really aggressive and people just completely misread him, and he wasn't, he was a big goof, he really was, but that was lack of any exposure at all, which made him, never been practiced, definitely. So there's lots of, I think, areas of why dogs can behave in certain ways.
So maybe from what you say, it's very, very important in the early years, just like you teach your kids to understand the environment, you take the puppies when they're very young and start doing the right things with them. Maybe when you bring the puppy home, when guests come in, how do you behave yourself? When you go on a walk and you see the cars go by, the traffic go by, the animals go by, how do you behave with them? And give me some more examples, because I'm just putting the child in front of me and thinking, how do I make my child social?
No, definitely, because there's the socialization period that we're all told about, the critical learning period that's roughly between week 9 to week 16 in age. So when your puppy is tiny, but that doesn't stop there. You want to start there and then work it up. And gentle exposure, like we said, sitting, watching the world go by, experiencing new things. If it's your family dog, get the kids involved, get them to play dress up so that the puppy is used to seeing people with crazy hair, with big hats, sunglasses. You know, ask your husband to grow a beard for a couple of weeks so that they get all that experience as well, because that is socializing. That's what's going to help your puppy go, oh, I've seen that before, I don't need to worry about it. That sort of thing.
Yeah, because dogs really react to novel things. I always use the example of, I don't know, like the big gnome. I don't know if you get them here in the UK, these big scary gnomes that are about this high.
Like ornaments in your garden.
Yeah, and if that was in your garden and your dog's seen it every single day, it'd be fine. But if you take that out and put it in the middle of the park, your dog's going to walk and go, oh, that's not supposed to be there. And it's just, you've changed the whole sort of setting and picture to the dog. So I think a lot of the time we have to really generalise what we're doing and think about not just always, I think people get puppies and they do all their training in the house.
Yeah.
And then they go in the house and straight outside. Whereas I'm just like, we need that.
He doesn't listen to me when we're in the garden.
Yeah, in between training. So it's kind of like that generalisation of teach them to say sit in the house, and then teach them to sit in the garden, then teach them to sit in the front garden, then teach them to sit out on the road, and then go to the park and go to the beach. Because so many people say to me, like you've just said, you know, they don't listen, and you're just like, but they only know to do it in one place. And I think this is what socialisation is. I think of it a big pie chart. And what people think socialisation is meets and greets, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody
it's
thinks
meeting other dogs on the road. It's probably the number one biggest issue that I deal with training here is dogs that have been essentially damaged or had bad experiences from this over socialisation of meeting.
Going to the dog parks and things like that.
Yeah.
I always say to people, the meets and greets are probably that size of the pie, that size, teeny. And the rest is, can your dog look at a dog calmly? Can it walk towards a dog calmly? Can they do a brief sniff, 1, 2, 3, let's go calmly? Can they walk away from that dog? Can they walk behind a dog when there's a dog in front? Can they walk forward when there's a dog behind? I'm like, there's so many scenarios that we need to be teaching our dogs, and we forget about them.
Yeah. Can your dog ride in the car?
Huge
one.
That's socialization too.
Yeah.
Simple one, but
Yeah.
that's socialization too.
And then it's not just other dogs as well, all animals. So for example, if you've got other pets at home, let's say you've brought home your little puppy and you've got a pet rabbit, you've got a pet cat, gently exposing them and mixing them together. Generally speaking, your dog, as long as they have good experiences when their socialization is going on when they're younger, they're going to carry that forever, and they're always going to be okay with cats and rabbits and whatever. But if you suddenly adopt a 10-year-old dog and then, oh, it doesn't like the rabbit, okay, this is going to be a lot harder because we've not had this nice gentle exposure as you were growing older. So it's actually one of the reasons I find most street dogs you get, most rescue street dogs you find are cat friendly, because there's just been cats everywhere when they were younger, when they were growing up, and they've been keeping separate in their business. So they're able
Part
to
of the furniture, isn't it?
Yeah, they're just able to exist around each other. They've never had to be forced in. Whereas if you've had your little puppy since whenever, and then suddenly you get a cat, there's this strange thing, and bam, they've got to get right into each other. They're not part of the furniture.
Yeah.
So it's the right introduction at the right time.
Yeah.
But one challenge question. We talked about puppies and we talked about week 9 to week 16. We encourage adopting a pet. So my next question is follow up. What if I adopt a dog who is older dog? how do I now introduce him and make him social?
Slowly.
Yeah, I
Gently.
think what we need to take into consideration in that situation is the dog's previous learning history. So we have to think about what could possibly be affecting this dog's behaviour from what it's previously learnt. And we have to think of them not that any puppy is a blank canvas. I hate when people say it's a blank canvas, but it's a term that's used. But we have to think, what does he think of this? What's he already learnt from this experience? So sometimes we're not exposing them, we're actually changing how they feel about it when they're older. And I think older dogs, it's not a case of they don't learn. I, again, hate that saying, is you can always teach an old dog new tricks, but
100%.
they take a little bit longer. That's all it is, because of the previous learning history that they've got.
Yeah.
I love
'Cause
this.
this is my favourite thing. This is what I do. Is I have a rule. I will not take it unless it's double digits. I will not adopt a dog younger than 10. So I get my dogs old. Some of them I adopted them when they were 16, when they were 15. And obviously they don't stay with me for long, but they learn, and they learn at their own paces. For example, my Max, he was 11 when I got him, and he didn't like cats. I have 2 cats. He was absolutely fine with them because it was a gentle exposure, and not just the dog being cat friendly. The cats were dog friendly as well, so they wouldn't run around and try and get in his face. They all just part of the furniture, around each other. Didn't bother. So it is possible, because you're right, old dogs can't learn new tricks. Of course they can. Of course
absolutely,
they can.
yeah.
I love to hear this. I love to hear you can teach any trick, or rather trait. It's a longer learning experience.
Just a little bit, yeah.
You have to be patient, you have to go slow, and then you have to do it right. Maybe sometimes with guidance from people like Heleen from Dog Logic and Linda from Coastal Canine. And I think anything is possible. So with this, I end this chapter on socialization. Hope you enjoyed it. Wait for our next session, where we are going to talk about socialization and breed specific socialization.